everyone. My name is John McKay, and I'm the Member of Parliament for Scarborough-Guildwood. And my guest today is Christie Gray, and she's the director of Sistema, which is a interesting group. So, first question, right off the top, Christie, is what the heck is Sistema? And you can't say that it is a line of products for storing food. So,
It is.
if it's not that,
It's also a Russian martial art.
okay. So it's not a Russian martial art. It's not a line of products for storing food. So what is it then?
So it is an after-school music program, and we serve about 300 kids in the Toronto area, and about 100 of those kids are in East Scarborough. And we are mostly looking to serve kids who live in communities where there would be more of a need. So kids who are maybe from vulnerable communities, whose parents would need help with after-school care. And the program itself began, it's modeled after a program that started in Venezuela in the 1970s called El Sistema. And that movement started with a man named Dr. Jose Abreu, wonderful, wonderful man, visionary, who believed that children were looking for connection and community, and they needed to have that connection and community in his area in Venezuela, in the streets of Caracas, where he was seeing kids getting involved with violence and gang activity there. And so he started in a parking garage, he started a music club, because the one thing he felt like he could do is teach music. And so he invited street kids to come and learn how to play the violin in this parking garage, and more and more and more kids came. And that movement that he began then in the 1970s has grown and grown. Today, there are over 200 El Sistema inspired community programs around the world, and our program is one of those. So we feel very lucky to be based here in Toronto.
So Sistema is a Spanish word, is it?
It is, yeah.
And what's it mean?
I think he really just meant the system of connecting with kids and teaching them social skills through music, and helping them to realize their own potential through music. Yeah, so
it doesn't have some obscure musical meaning that a Luddite like me would have missed anyways.
No.
Oh, okay. So, well, that's quite interesting, because you kind of use the name, and I've been to St. Martin de Porres when you folks were there. I was dazzled by the work you were doing and the kids that you were doing it with.
They're phenomenal kids. I mean, they just deserve every advantage in the world. And so I just feel mostly very lucky to know the families and know the kids in these communities. They're wonderful, wonderful people.
Yeah. Well, before we get to the program and the kids, let's talk about Christie Gray. So, other than being a brilliant musician from the University of Victoria and I think Concordia and a whole bunch of other ridiculously qualified places of higher learning, where were you born and raised?
I'm a farm girl. I was born in Creston, BC, and my parents for years were apple orchard and cherry orchard farmers. There we had a family business growing fruit, and that's where I grew up. That's where I learned how to play the fiddle. Actually, it started as a fiddle player.
So what's the difference between the fiddle and the violin? I noticed you say you're a fiddle and violin teacher. Okay, I thought they were both the same thing.
They're basically same instrument, but different style of playing. Yeah. So I think the one quote I love to say is, "The fiddle dances and the violin sings."
Oh, that's a great line.
Yeah.
My wife and I were in Cape Breton about 10 years ago, and of course they have these ceilidhs pretty well every night in every little podunk town around Cape Breton, and she loved going to them, absolutely loved going to them, and of course every man in the barn wanted to dance with her, and I just stood there like some sort of barnacle.
Yeah, you have to know all the dances, don't you, for those
Holy
ceilidhs?
smokes! Yeah. She just had a blast, and of course everybody in Cape Breton seems to be able to play the fiddle.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, it's a real community for that.
Yeah.
there's less fiddling in BC, but there's a good pocket of us BC fiddlers. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you said Cranston, BC?
Creston.
Creston, and where's that?
It's in the Kootenay region, so
Oh, okay.
southeast BC.
God's country.
Yes, beautiful,
Oh
beautiful.
my goodness. So how do you end up coming from God's country to here?
That's what my parents ask. They actually met in Scarborough, and they
Yeah.
can't believe that I ended up back in Toronto.
Well,
Um,
there you go.
but
I
I
kn-
ended up back here because I found work that I loved. I was working for the Royal Conservatory of Music right out of grad school, and I wanted to work in music education, and this seemed like the place to be for that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose there is true. So your parents met in Scarborough. So on this show, it's all things Scarborough, all times, all places. So we're starting to like you already. If in fact your parents met in Scarborough. So were they Torontonians? Were they Scarbarians, as they
My
say?
mom was born in Scarborough.
Oh, we like her. We like her. Yeah,
Yeah, on Kootenay Avenue, I think. That was
yeah,
her family house.
yeah.
And my dad moved to Scarborough as a teenager.
Okay.
So he went to high school in Scarborough as well.
Which school?
Um, oh, now I can't remember.
All right. Well, we're all great schools,
Yeah,
no
all great
question. Yeah, all
schools.
great schools. Yes, yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and he became an electrician, and my mom became a registered nurse. And they met in Scarborough. They met through my uncle who was working with my dad, my mom's brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they met early. They were in their early 20s, and they lived in Scarborough for a long time before they moved to BC.
Well, I can't bestow upon you official Scarborough citizenship,
No.
but I can say that you are on an accelerated path to Scarborough citizenship because of your obviously brilliant antecedents. So yeah,
Thank
so
you.
in the next mail you'll receive your application, and
Awesome.
yes, it'd be very impressive. So enough with the Scarborough stuff, and enough with this awesome journey to get here. I I know a little bit about the program, but it would be better if you told the folks that are listening about the program and what you hope to accomplish with the program.
Yeah, we in our program we accept students when they're little kids, when they're usually about 6, sometimes a little older, but usually between 6 and 8 years old. And so when they come to us, they usually don't have any music background at all, or maybe a little bit at home, but they start out as beginners, and we make an 8-year commitment to each child who enters our program. So when they start with us in grade 1, we say, okay, we're going to be with you at least until grade 8. And they come to us every day after school. So they start right after school, they start with a snack and community time with their friends. And then classes go until 5:45 p.m. every day. And the students are learning the basics of music, how to read music, how to play by ear, understanding music theory. And then they learn an instrument. So usually a stringed instrument, either violin or cello to start off with. Um, and they also learn how to sing in a choir and play in a percussion ensemble. So they're doing about 10 hours a week of music with us every week.
Wow.
And yeah, so by the
That's a
time
big commitment. That is a very big commitment.
it's a free program. So the students receive everything they need for our program free of charge. So we provide them with instruments, with instructors, with all the music and equipment they need, a free snack every day.
Mm.
And for their parents, it's free after school care, which, as you know, in the city of Toronto, is so prohibitively expensive. So for families to be part of our program, not only is it the music education and the support that they get through that music education, but also the support to families to have free, safe after school care, where they know where their kids are, where they're being cared for, learning important skills. And that's an important part of our mission, to support families and to support the potential of students in these communities. A lot of families are immigrant families, or families who are struggling to get their start in Canada, or families who are just really struggling, single parents who are trying to get post-secondary education under their belts, and having that little extra boost of help makes all the difference in the world. And we can see that with the kids and the families all the time.
Tell
Uh,
me about what's the a profile of a student? Can you describe the student, or for that matter, the family that's attracted to making sure that their kid gets into this program?
I think that it changes over time. I think at the beginning, a lot of parents are really just excited to have free after school care.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the main thing they're focused on. Where can I put my kid after school that's not going to cost a fortune? Where will they be safe and cared for? And I think that it changes over time. And I think for families, it has. I've talked to parents where it's changed over time, where they've seen their child gain skills outside of music. Even they've become better at math, become better at reading, they've been better at making friends, they've had more confidence, more leadership skills because of their involvement with our programs. So over time you can see parents seeing the value of having their child be in Sistema for more than just the childcare, but actually their development of that student as a whole, and the support that their family is given.
I wanted to explore that part because
Sure.
there's lots of literature that talks about the connection between music and math,
Mhm.
music and literacy, and it's not a well understood connection. Um, I would be interested in your thoughts about you obviously referenced it indirectly, but you're a serious musician and you've had a lot of experience and you're doing the Lord's work here. Um, so explain to me the connections that you see both from the literature but also from your personal experience on these kids, particularly in their academic life.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely seeing kids um, in Sistema getting higher marks in math, in language, in reading. When we look at the data, we do see a difference. We do see that they're getting higher scores than their peers in the same schools on a consistent basis. So they're definitely, those students are doing better. So the data is there. The data is there to back up that the students are getting those higher marks. And I think based on my personal experience, I think being involved in learning a musical instrument is teaching children a focus. It's teaching them critical, analytical thinking skills that they need to be good at those other skill sets that they need in math or reading or language comprehension. And when they're practicing it every day, they also learn how to practice.
Hmm.
They learn how to do their homework because they're learning how to learn when they're learning music. So they're saying, okay, I want to learn this particular skill. I need to learn this passage. This is how I'm going to approach it. This is how I'm going to think about it. This is how I'm going to tackle this problem. And those skills transfer. They transfer to any other facet in life, not just math or reading,
Right.
but
Right.
really any other skill that you would need. So when you're faced with a problem as a teenager and as adult, you have those critical thinking skills and those problem solving skills that you've learned by repetition. We know that that's how we learn things. We practice them over and over, and that's how we get better at things. And when the students learn how to do that at a very young age, that's a skill that they can take forward in their lives. It's a wonderful skill. I myself had access to that as a child, and I've seen many instances where it's done me so well to have
Yeah.
those skills, and I really love to see those skills emerging in those students as
Yeah.
well.
I'd be interested in a story or two about some child that came in at a particular level into your program and then went on to whatever she went on to. I'm sure you've got these stories because these are this is amazing work that you are doing.
I can think of a number of kids. I would think of one in particular who was a child who was a single parent and honestly did not want to be in the program. He was enrolled in the program by his mom. His mom really wanted him to do it. And for the first few years, even though he showed a lot of musical promise, super smart kid, was just really disengaged, really didn't want to be part of the program, and often would say to teachers, I don't want to play the cello. I want to quit Sistema. And we worked pretty hard with his mom and with him to find ways that he would feel happier at the program and he would feel more like he wanted to be there. And his mom at one point confided in me that the real issue for her was that there was nowhere else for him to go. And what he really wanted to do is hang out and play basketball in the court outside of their building. And her fear was that he would get involved with not so great kids if he did that. She was seeing that the kids were hanging out there were mostly getting involved in drug activity. They were mostly getting involved in substance abuse. She just really didn't want that for her kid. And she felt like she just didn't have any other place to send him because she's working full time. And so we just really we all worked really hard at it. And there just was a moment with him. I remember it really clearly. I walked into rehearsal. It was just a regular weekday afternoon in September. And there he was sitting there with his cello. And he said, "Hey, Miss Christie." And I said, "Hey, how's it going?" And he said, "This year I'm all about the cello."
Oh, really?
And I was like, "Oh, amazing. That's so great." I won't use his name because I want him to have his privacy. But I said, "That's really amazing." And he said, "Yeah, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to get into arts high school. This is my year." And
Really?
he just turned it around. And I'll just never forget the year before his mom saying, if we can just get him far enough down the path that it's too late for him to turn back and go the other way. We just got to get him far enough down that path. And I remember thinking, okay, well, like that's a lot for a music program. I don't know. Can we do that? And it really, you can see now he's in high school. He's going to an arts high school. He's studying cello. He's doing amazingly well. He's such a wonderful, wonderful kid, getting amazing grades. And she was right. He did just need to get a little bit farther down that path, and she needed the help. She had the dream for her son, but she needed the support and the help to get him there. And, I really think about that a lot when we're seeing kids now with struggles and are having a hard time. They just need that help. They need people to believe in them.
Now, I know you just had a baby and he's 6 months old, and you're if you're anything like my daughter who had a baby 2 days after you, it's still, we're in the Gaga stage. It's just the loveliest stage ever. I'm completely besotted by my granddaughter. But one of the things that is repeated in the literature, the educational literature, is that mom is the most significant influence on your educational outcomes. And so I'd be interested again in your observations, because the story that you just related had to do with not only the son, but the mom who pushed, and sounds like she's a wise woman.
Moms are the backbones of these communities, for sure. Absolutely. We see moms so often at pickup time asking their kids, how was your day and how are things going, and knowing the intimate details of their children's lives. We see moms advocating for their children. I see so many moms juggling full-time work and single parenthood and going to school at the same time. I think communities are absolutely lucky to have these incredible women who are doing so much in order to keep their families afloat, in order to keep their communities afloat, in order to advance their own learning. It's really inspiring. Honestly, I don't know how they do it. I've got my husband here, and I'm very fortunate in my own personal life, the support that I have for myself and for my baby. And these moms, they don't have that, and they still manage to raise incredible children and do amazing things. So it's pretty inspiring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everybody has had to adapt to the reality of the pandemic. I'm assuming your program has also had to adapt.
Yeah.
So tell us about that adaptation. How does that unfold in the last number of months?
It's been a challenging year for the whole team, for sure. We actually started online programming, I guess, just the week after lockdown started in March. Now I kind of chuckle at myself, but at the time I thought, oh, well, they've got this extended March break. So we'll offer programming while they're on this extended March break online, and they'll, the kids will have something to do, their parents will be at work, it'll be nice for them to have something to do. So we'll tell everybody, take your instruments home for this March break, and we'll do some online stuff with them, and then the lockdown will be over and we'll be back at school. And of course they never went back to school, but for the whole rest of the school year. So we just stayed online, and we started online and we stayed online. We were still doing online classes for the students. The program still happens the same hours every day after school, and we're still checking in with families and making sure that students are showing up on time and that we know where everybody is, providing safe after school care for students, even though it's virtual. And the students are amazingly resilient. They're coming to class every day. They even came all summer, which we never have offered summer programming before. We did this summer, thanks in part actually to a grant through the federal government. And we're just so lucky to have these amazing students who have formed a community, and even in the pandemic are there for each other, checking in with each other. We see them on the Zoom classes every single day, and talking about the highs and lows of their day and how things are going with online learning through school. And it's pretty cool to see how well they're doing. And then it's also really wonderful to be able to be there for families and for kids in times when it is not an easy time for everybody. Yeah.
Now, you also have some pretty remarkable teachers, people who have serious talent and serious ability, are taking out some time from their otherwise busy schedules to do this. So give me an example of a person that just knocks your socks off every day with his or her commitment to your program.
Oh, well, in some ways I'd hate to mention anybody specific because our team is just incredible. I mean, if you look at the roster of teachers in our program, they truly are the superstars of the Toronto performing arts scene. These young up and coming performers and thinkers and educators. We've been incredibly lucky to have this team that we've been building over the last 5 or 6 years. One name that springs to mind is Morgan Melbourne, who is a pianist, and she's our choir director for us, and she is an incredible musician. She's a performer in her own right, and she has really been there for the kids. She's really, I see her working hard every day to engage the students. At the beginning of the pandemic, I was kind of co-hosting a lot of the classes that she was teaching in choir, and figuring out how to do choir on Zoom, which is not easy because you can't actually play music together on Zoom.
Yeah.
And it's just been really inspiring to see some teachers like Morgan, rising to the challenge, even though it's a challenging time for everybody. Personally, and for performers, it's such a hard time because there are no performances. Most of the teachers have lost their performing income, which is a big chunk of their income, and also their outlet for their own careers and their passion. And at the same time, you see them showing up every single day for their students and putting on a happy face and finding creative ways to engage, and making up games. And it's we're really lucky. This community is really, really lucky to have these amazing people doing this kind of work.
Well, we are really, really lucky to have you and the Sistema group reaching out to, well, I'm going to be parochial here and say to the people of Scarborough, particularly the people of East Scarborough, for this amazing program. And I want to thank you on behalf of the community for what you do. But before we bring this to a close, I did want to give you an opportunity to say how people might want to get involved with Sistema, and Lord knows who's listening, but some might be performers, some might be donors, some might be participants, some might, well, who knows? So give us an idea of how those who want to get themselves associated with Sistema can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Our website is sistema-toronto.ca. So Sistema is spelled Sistema, sistema-toronto.ca. And you can find us on social media. We're on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. You can see lots of pictures of adorable children playing music.
And when you go to Google, don't go to the website about about
the
food
containers,
products.
yeah,
Yeah,
or the
don't do that.
Russian,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Russian
yeah.
martial arts, yeah,
Yeah.
we're the music people.
Yeah. Okay. So again, I just wanted to thank you for your remarkable willingness to engage with the people who really do need engagement and an opportunity. And out of those opportunities, amazing things can happen.
Thanks very much for chatting. It's been nice to see you.
Been good to see you as well. Thanks again.